He thought it was just a blind date. Just another ordinary evening that his friends had forced him into after weeks of being single, restless, and lonely. The kind of evening where you rehearse polite smiles, try to look charming, and hope the other person isn't completely mismatched with you. He wasn't expecting sparks, nor was he seeking them. Life had been too busy for miracles, and love felt like something that belonged to a younger, more hopeful version of himself. The restaurant glowed with amber light, soft music drifting through the air like a whisper of something half-remembered. He glanced at his watch, brushed a hand through his hair, and waited. The waiter asked if he'd like to order a drink. "Just water for now," he said, nervousness curling in his stomach. He had no idea what she looked like. His friend Mark had only said, "Trust me, she's special. Just go." A few minutes later, the door opened, and a woman stepped in, her presence quiet yet captivating. She moved with the kind of grace that didn't come from confidence but from peace, like someone who had learned to breathe in a world that often forgot how. Her eyes searched the room until they landed on him. She smiled, a small, knowing curve of the lips that made his heart stutter. "Ethan?" she asked, her voice gentle. He stood up, almost too quickly. "Yeah, that's me. You must be Lily." She nodded and took a seat. The moment she did, something strange rippled through him, familiarity. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the tilt of her smile, the quiet sparkle in her eyes. He couldn't explain it, but it felt like he had seen her before, in another time, another place. They began to talk, cautiously at first. She asked about his work, his hobbies, his favorite kind of music. He answered politely, sometimes awkwardly, sometimes with a laugh. But every time she spoke, something about her tone, her choice of words, tugged at his memory. Halfway through the meal, she tilted her head slightly and said, "You don't remember me, do you?" The words struck him like a quiet thunderclap. His fork froze mid-air. "I'm sorry." Her smile softened, and she leaned back, eyes glistening not with sadness, but with something deeper, the weight of years unsaid. "You don't remember me," she repeated, almost as if she'd expected it. "It's okay. It's been a long time." He blinked, searching her face more carefully now. The curve of her jaw, the warmth of her gaze, something in her expression unlocked a door in his mind he hadn't opened in years. Flashes began to come. The scent of rain on a summer afternoon, laughter in a small park, a girl sitting on a swing with a red notebook in her hand. It couldn't be. "Wait," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "Street. Mary's high school." Her smile widened. "There it is," she said softly. "You finally remember." He leaned forward, disbelief flooding him. "Lily Harper. You were in my literature class. You used to write poetry. And you used to steal my pens," she said, laughing, a sound that instantly warmed the air between them. The years melted away like snow in sunlight. He remembered her now. The quiet girl who always sat by the window, scribbling in her notebook, lost in her own world. He had liked her, more than he ever admitted, but life had a way of rushing them forward. After graduation, they had gone separate ways, lost to time and distance. "I can't believe this," he whispered. "It's been, what, 12 years? 13, she said. "But who's counting?" They both laughed, and something inside him stirred, that feeling he thought he had forgotten, the excitement of connection, of rediscovering something pure and untouched by the years. They began to talk about everything they'd missed, where life had taken them, what they'd become. She told him she was now a writer, working for a small publishing house. He told her he was an architect, still struggling to design something that felt meaningful. The conversation flowed effortlessly, as if the years apart had only been a pause between sentences. Every story she shared painted colors into the gray corners of his world. Her laughter was the same, bright and honest, but there was something new in her now too, strength, a quiet resilience that only life's heartbreaks can shape. When dessert came, she looked at him thoughtfully. "Do you ever think," she asked, "that some people are meant to cross paths again, not by chance, but by timing?" He smiled faintly. "You mean fate?" "Maybe," she said, "or maybe it's life giving us a second look at what we once overlooked." He thought about that long after the words left her lips. Maybe this wasn't just a blind date. Maybe this was something much older, a moment waiting patiently for its return. After dinner, They walked outside. The city shimmered under 1,000 golden lights, the night air cool and gentle. They walked without direction, simply following the rhythm of their steps. "Do you remember the park behind the school?" she asked suddenly. "Of course," he said. "Where we used to sit after class. Do you remember what you said to me the last time we talked?" He frowned, trying to recall. "I don't think I do." She smiled wistfully. "You said, one day, when we're older, if we ever meet again, I'll buy you dinner." He laughed softly. "Looks like I finally kept that promise." "You did," she whispered. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't empty. It was full of memories, of roads untaken, of possibilities reignited. He looked at her, the glow of the streetlight dancing in her eyes, and wondered how something so familiar could feel so new. As they reached the corner, she paused. "Ethan," she said quietly, "I almost didn't come tonight." "Why not?" "I thought maybe you wouldn't remember. That it would just be another awkward dinner between strangers." He looked at her, heart tightening. "You were never a stranger to me, Lily. I just forgot how much you meant." Her eyes softened, and for the first time that night, she looked vulnerable. "I waited for years to see if our paths would cross again. I moved away, I built a life, but there was always this unfinished sentence in my story. I think you were it." He wanted to say something, anything, but words felt too small for what stirred inside him. So instead, he reached out and took her hand. It felt like coming home. The days that followed were a blur of rediscovery. They began to meet often. Coffee on rainy mornings, walks by the river, long talks that stretched into midnight. It was as though they were writing the story they never got to finish in their youth. He learned that she had been engaged once, but it hadn't worked out. She learned that he had thrown himself into work after losing someone close. Life had molded them, shaped them, scarred them, yet somehow, the pieces still fit. One evening, they found themselves at the old park again. The swings were rusted, the benches faded, but the air still carried the same sweetness of youth. She sat where she always used to, and he sat beside her, just like before. "Do you ever think about how different life could have been if we'd stayed in touch?" she asked. He nodded. "All the time. But maybe we weren't ready back then." "Maybe not," she agreed softly. "But I'm glad we're here now." He turned to her, eyes searching hers. "You know, I used to think love was something that only belonged to the beginning of your life, something wild and impulsive. But now I think the best kind of love comes later, when you've known loss, when you've learned patience. It's quieter, but it runs deeper." She smiled. "That's beautiful. Maybe that's what we have now. Not the beginning, but the depth." They sat in silence for a while, letting the wind tell their story. Then she opened her bag and took out something small, a worn red notebook. "You still have that?" he asked in surprise. "Of course," she said. "It's where I wrote my first poem, the one you teased me about." He laughed. "The one about the boy who forgets the girl?" "The same," she said. "Except this time, I wrote a different ending." She flipped to the last page and handed it to him. The ink was fresh. It read, "He thought he forgot her, but memory only hides what the heart remembers." And when time brought them together again, he realized, love had been waiting all along. He looked up, eyes shining. "That's beautiful, Lily. It's ours," she whispered. Something shifted then, the space between them closing, the years dissolving. He reached for her hand again, and this time, she didn't pull away. The world around them seemed to pause as if the universe itself was exhaling. From that night on, they were no longer just two people catching up on lost time, they were two hearts rewriting destiny. Every coffee shared, every sunset watched, every quiet moment felt like a second chance at something timeless. Months passed, their lives intertwined in ways neither had expected. She inspired him to see beauty again in his work, to design not just buildings, but stories. He encouraged her to publish her poems, to believe her words mattered. Together, they healed old wounds, turning memories into moments and moments into forever. One evening, under a sky painted in shades of rose and gold, he took her back to that same restaurant where it all began. She smiled as they sat down, recognizing the same table, the same warm light. "Déjà vu," she said. He nodded, his heart beating faster. "You once said fate gives us second chances." Maybe this is ours. She looked at him, puzzled but smiling. Why do you say that? He reached into his jacket pocket and placed a small velvet box on the table. Her eyes widened, her breath catching as he opened it. Inside, a simple ring gleamed softly. Because this time, he said, voice trembling, I don't want to forget. Not you, not us, not again. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered, Ethan. He took her hand. 13 years ago, I promised you dinner if we ever met again. Tonight, I'm asking for forever. She laughed through her tears, that same gentle sound he had fallen in love with years ago. Yes, she said simply. The restaurant seemed to glow brighter, the world outside fading into a blur of light and promise. He had walked in thinking it was just another blind date, another evening of polite conversation and fleeting connection. But she had been right all along. Some people aren't coincidences, they're constants, waiting quietly for the right moment to return. Later, as they stepped out into the night, she leaned close and whispered the words that had started it all. You don't remember me. He smiled, wrapping his arm around her. How could I ever forget? And in that moment, beneath the soft hum of the city and the slow dance of the wind, love finally came full circle. Because sometimes, life doesn't give you new beginnings. It gives you back the old ones, polished by time, ready to shine brighter than before.